So nice to see you again, Jim. Thank you for joining us today. And this is our second part of our chats about the current state of the retail market. For those who don't know either of us, I'm Mark Steggles. I'm a partner in the dispute resolution team at Thompson Sell and Passmore, and Jim Grant's the managing director of Cradick Retail. In our first talk, Jim, we looked at how people initially reacted to lockdown, and now we're going to just have a chat about, now that things have settled down a bit, how things are at the moment and how people have reacted and got used to this new normal, if that is what this is. And I think one of the things that came out of our first chat was that people are shopping more locally, possibly because it's been forced on them. But what is that new normal now?
That's another very good question, isn't it? Without a doubt, there is overwhelming evidence out there that large town centres, city centres particularly, are seeing a downturn in visitor numbers, yes. And yet the smaller market towns, perhaps where people are living and working now, are faring slightly better. So that's an immediate consequence. The retail market, at the risk of stating the obvious, is tough, and it's going to remain so, I think, for the foreseeable future. But it's been interesting to us that in amongst all of that, we have seen a surprising number of inquiries for retail property. The difference, I think, that we've spotted is that expensive large town centre retail is, perhaps not surprisingly, going to be difficult to fill the void, because there are fewer people visiting these large city centres, and actually in the first place there are fewer occupiers potentially there to occupy the spaces anyway. So I see that as challenging, and if you like, that's the hole in the middle of the donut, if you sort of pardon the overused vernacular. But the outer periphery of these towns, we're finding that there's quite good activity, actually. Huge flexibility needed in terms of of leases and terms of and rents being suppressed, not surprisingly. But it's interesting to note that there is definitely activity out there, and there are signs that there are startup businesses looking to take on new leases, new opportunities, whether that's startup companies or whether it's existing businesses looking to expand and seeing an uplift in the local market. A combination of the two, I would say.
And these are presumably not right in the high street, not right in town centre. These are sort of more secondary locations, are they? A lot of them.
Yeah, but partly for the reasons I just sort of alluded to in terms of the town centre, the core town centre not seeing its traditional levels of footfall and therefore spend. But also there's a degree of affordability for independent occupiers. We're even starting to see evidence of individuals who may be made redundant from their existing careers that are having to think of new ways of earning an income. And are starting new retail businesses. So those secondary locations where rents are more affordable are by definition going to be more attractive to them.
And you mentioned earlier about flexibility on lease terms. That's on rent and break clauses. And are landlords offering other types of incentives as well? Are you seeing?
Yeah, with the landlords that we're speaking with, particularly at the moment, are expecting to offer shorter lease terms, more flexibility in terms of break clauses. As I mentioned just now, probably less rent than they would have expected to achieve before. They may be able to assist with shop fit costs, depending on the other terms of the deal. And they're also looking at even what we're referring to as COVID clauses. So in the event of retailers being suspended from trading by government restrictions, then rent suspensions would kick in as well. So all a bit difficult for landlords and occupiers to get their heads around, but it's a world that we're now having to contend with.
I suppose landlords are also conscious not to get lumbered with empty rates as well. That's a big driver as well.
Absolutely. And whilst local authorities have been able to offer some concessions through the initial phases of lockdown, quite clearly that's not sustainable in the longer term. And rates reform is probably a whole different series of discussions between you and I. But right now, if you're a landlord of a vacant property, you are staring at significant holding costs.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Jim. I think in the next one, I'm going to press you to make 3 predictions for the next 6 months, and then we'll see how they pan out. But thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'll speak to you next time. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Cheers.